is a big, big headache still for us in Ghana. New variants have come in, spreading faster than ever. More and more people are getting sick. The system has more and more work to do. It's burdened more and more. You and I are more and more in danger. We need to figure out whether we are doing everything right. So today we're going to speak to the Ghana Health Service, and we're hoping that they'll be able to explain to us how things work so we can have a little more faith, because according to the Ghana Medical Association, one of the big areas of concern is the airport and the importation of cases. They believe this is one of the two big drivers behind the increased numbers. The other one, of course, being our failure to implement the protocols. So today we're going to spend some time. We'll talk to the Ghana Medical Association. We'll talk to the Ghana Health Service. We'll talk to an expert in the field. And we'll try and understand and get all our ducks lined up in a row and fully grasp what is happening at our airports, whether it's all correct, whether there's something we need to do to make it better, and what you and I can do to ensure the system works better. I'll introduce you to our guests in a moment. First of all, let me ask you, are you worried about the coronavirus? Absa Bank cares about your safety. Use the Absa digital channels for your safe and convenient banking. Make instant money transfers, mobile money transfers, pay bills, buy airtime, make ATM cash deposits, make payments with your Absa vertical card. Absa cares about you. So please, remember to sanitize your hands before and after the use of any e-banking device. That is Africanacity. That is APSA. Now, if you're looking for a highly ranked British degree in West Africa, Lancaster University, Ghana is right here in Accra and offers an amazing student experience in a world-class learning environment. Join the LUG Foundation program directly after WASI and progress to an undergraduate program in law, accounting and finance, computer science, marketing, politics and international relations, economics and international relations, or business management at the new transnational academic group campus at Tantra Hill in October. Now, if you're a working professional with a first degree, join the globally accredited Lancaster Executive MBA. Apply now. Call 055 2796 091 or go to lancaster.edu.gh for more information. And finally, let's face it, things make tight. But staying connected with family and friends is a must. Surfline understands that you rely on daily revenue to make a living. That is why they have introduced Pay Weekly data bundles for you. Surfline's new Pay Weekly bundle offers you value for money by giving you a flexible weekly payment option that is easy on your pocket. The Pay Weekly bundles are a simple and fast way to save cash, especially if you run your life or your business on a weekly budget. Time is money, and Surfline saves you a lot of it with this all-new Pay Weekly bundle. Sign up to Pay Weekly on Surfline today by dialing *718*77#. Surfline, we're better together. All right, and Ray, I'm really glad we've got our guests, these particular guests, to help us get to the bottom of this issue. And let me introduce them very quickly. First, joining us all the way from Kumasi is Dr. John Amwesi. He's a lecturer at the Global Health Department of the School of Public Health, KNUST. He's the leader of Global Health and Infectious Diseases Research Group at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Tropical Medicine, known to you and I as KCCR, one of the leading institutions when it comes to this fight against COVID-19. The General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association is our guest this morning, Dr. Justice Yankson. Dr. Franklin Asiedu Bekwin is the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service. It's always a pleasure to have him on the show. Doctors, good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, I think at the center of all this is one fundamental question. We have seen that questions are raised about whether or not our system that we've put in place at our airports is working. The Ghana Medical Association is saying that the importation of cases is one of the big drivers behind the third wave. So let's interrogate whether or not it is working. And Dr. Amwesi, I want to start with you because, of course, this is your field. You're an expert here. So the question is simple. Is it possible for somebody to test negative in their country of origin, within 72 hours test positive at Kutuka, and then within 48 hours test negative to a Ghana Health Service administered test? Is that possible?
Thanks, Kojo, and thanks for having me. Good morning to everyone listening and to the other panelists. Can you just confirm that you can hear me? Because
yes, we
hear
can,
you
Doc.
really low. I'm on the road to Asinfosu from Kumasi for work.
Right.
So just confirm that you can hear me, and then I'll go on.
Yes, Dr. Amwisi, we can hear you clearly.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. Do pardon me if some noise does come in occasionally, because as I said, I'm on the road. So I think there's a bunch of things at play here. First, to point out that there is the theory behind the testing, and then there is the practice and what really happens when you're actually testing. The theory behind this is you're trying to prevent people who would otherwise have the disease from coming in, and because they are crossing different barriers, call them barriers, albeit artificial, as moving from one geographic location to another, you need laws, rules, and regulations in place to inform how or to determine how the testing will inform how people move around and who's allowed to go and who's not allowed to go. So for that matter, before you jump onto a plane, you've got to take this PCR test at least every 2 hours before, and that test you do is what allows you to get onto the plane. So once you arrive at your port of destination, essentially whatever test that you did before getting onto the plane is more or less null and void, and the consideration of whether you're allowed to enter or not is based on the result of the test that you conduct at your port of entry. And this applies not only in Ghana but everywhere else, because you would come in with a negative PCR test, because you wouldn't be allowed on the plane. But once you get to the port of entry, the determination is based on whatever is found there. So what that means is that you can have one kind of regime before you jump onto the plane, and a different kind of testing regime when you arrive at a port of entry. And each of these may be very different in their own respect. We know that the gold standard for testing for COVID-19 is the PCR test. When we say the gold standard, what we mean is that this is supposed to be the most reliable test, or the go-to test, the last stop, if I put it in our local parlance. And so one would think that if you do a PCR test before you jump onto a plane, then when you arrive, you either should get a test of a similar standard, or otherwise one would rely on the otherwise more superior test. But it doesn't really work this way in practice, and this is what I said, what I explained, what I meant by when I said there's the theory and the practice of the testing. Now, when you arrive in the U.S., typically you would do a rapid antigen test. You would not be doing a PCR test, even though you do a PCR test in Ghana before you jump onto the plane, before arriving in New York or Washington, D.C. or London or wherever. So it's really important to bear this in mind. So the fact that somebody had a negative PCR test from wherever they're traveling from and arrived in Ghana, had a positive antigen test at the point of care, is first of all theoretically possible, but I would rather that the two are completely disconnected, because whatever you did before jumping onto the plane really means nothing, whether it's in Ghana or elsewhere. But if you want to connect those dots, yes, it is possible. Now, the test we're doing here in Ghana is the antigen point of care test. It is definitely much better than doing a rapid antigen test. Now, the thing with these antigen tests is that they are highly specific. What that means is they are very good at telling you, if you are negative, that you are indeed negative. And of course, this makes a lot of sense, because what you want is to prevent someone who is positive from getting in, or a test telling you that someone is negative when they are really positive. And that's really what you want to do. It would be beautiful if we could have PCR tests upon arrival, but this is simply not practical. Aside the cost, the time that it would take to get this done, and all what you need to put in place before you can actually do these is really, really daunting. I don't know yet of any major port of entry where PCR tests are done upon arrival. I think in Dubai they do this, but the majority of countries are actually doing antigen tests upon arrival. A lot are even doing rapid antigen tests. Here in Ghana, we're actually doing the point of care antigen test, which is definitely superior. Now, the challenge comes in when you make reference to someone testing, negative before coming to the country, positive on the antigen test, and then later testing negative. Obviously, what this means is that there was a problem somewhere. The question is, where was the problem? Was it before they came into Ghana? Was it when they entered into Ghana, or was it the confirmation test that they did later? There was a problem somewhere. Now, let me just cycle back a bit to just the whole mechanics of testing. The fact that a test is a gold standard, or maybe a highly specific test or highly sensitive test, does not necessarily mean that it will always operate the way it should. It's a function of who is conducting the test, and then the tools that are being used to collect the sample, and the skill of the one collecting the sample and the one actually processing the sample to arrive at the test result. So when you look at it, you can have a test that is up there, maybe 94% specific, 95% sensitive, but it goes through all these processes. Its sensitivity and specificity can be markedly lowered by poor technique, by the wrong timing, by poor quality consumables, and a bunch of other things. So the fact that you have a PCR test won't always mean that it will spit out a result that is superior to a test that may have a lower sensitivity. What that means is you're better off with a rapid antigen test than a PCR test, which is conducted in an environment which may put you at a higher risk of false positives or false negatives. So with this conundrum that we are faced with, where we invariably would have some false positives and false negatives, what you need to have is a very stringent quality control apparatus, which preferably is completely independent of the various testing regimes you have in place, all in a bid to ensure that there is ultimately the right thing being done, getting out the right results, and also that there is confidence in the system. And what I have really desired is that the quality control regime that is at the airport would be made more publicly available, and also that if I had my own way, that quality control regime would be completely independent of the testing regime. So that's what I would say by way of introduction, and just to sort of
right. Okay. So
I think it's a great discussion.
Yeah, as usual, there was a lot of information there. So I want to synthesize it to one simple point. What you are saying is that if a person tests positive at the airport, and then within 48 or 72 hours tests negative, then there's a problem.
Yeah, essentially that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But, and I must say a big but, there is this really, really small window of possibility that this person was at the tail end of their infection. Because, when someone tests positive, negative, once you go below a certain threshold, it is theoretically possible. So aside the probability that there was a false positive at the airport, there is also that possibility that that person was at the tail end of their infection. And so when they did the confirmatory test 48 hours later, they turned out to be negative. Of course, and that would mean that whatever test that they did before coming to the country must have been a false negative. That's what that would tell me. So there's a lot of moving parts here. That was what I was trying to explain to you. And because those moving parts are not necessarily connected in the sense that they're being done in the same place at the same
Right.
time. One has to be really careful in connecting those dots and really need in-depth information before
Right.
they
So
draw
in
conclusions.
order for what you have said to be possible, these following things would have to happen. First of all, the person would have to be positive before leaving their country. But
Not
but
necessarily. Let me just go over again. What I was explaining is that if you have a situation where the person came into the country, tested positive on an antigen test, the assumption is that they were allowed on the plane because the PCR test they did at the port of departure was negative. So what that means is if they had a positive test upon arrival here on our antigen test, we are invariably suggesting that the test that they did before they came was a false negative, or that they somehow got the virus in between when they did that test and when they arrived in Ghana, which is most unlikely because if you should be infected, it would take at least some 5 days before you would actually test positive.
Right. I actually think we're saying the same thing, Dr. Amwesi. I think we're saying the same thing. So if you don't mind, if I'll go through the scenario and then at the end of it, you tell me if what I'm saying is right, okay? So my understanding from what you're saying is that in order for somebody to do this negative, positive, negative thing that is being complained about, this is the only way it can happen. One, the person would have to have been positive when they left their country of origin. When they did the test in their country of origin, they were positive, which would mean that the results they got was wrong. Then, in Ghana, when they were tested, they would have to have been at the end of their infection or at the end of the point where a test would give them, would detect the presence of the virus. So they would have to be at the end of their infection by the time they are tested in Accra. That is the only way in which you could get somebody negative, having a negative PCR test from their country of origin, a positive antigen test at Kotoka, and then a negative test by Ghana Health Service within 48 or 72 hours. Am I right?
Well, not exactly. What I'm saying is that somebody would have had to be wrong somewhere along that chain. And ultimately, someone would have to be wrong somewhere. But to determine who is wrong, it's really difficult and almost impossible. What I was pointing out is particularly, and that's what should really interest us the more, is someone being positive on an antigen test upon arrival in Ghana. Forget about what they had before they got into Ghana.
Right.
We don't have control over that.
Right. Very well.
Them testing positive on the antigen test at the airport, and 48 hours later testing negative on a PCR test when we confirmed. And what I was saying was that it's either that the airport gave a false positive test and was negative all along, and so the PCR picked that up 48 hours later, or that they were at the tail end of their infection, and so 48 hours later there was no virus to detect.
I understand.
That's the only possibility, which would mean obviously that their test before at the point of departure must have given them a false negative.
Right.
That's what I was trying to point out.
I understand you. Okay, thank you for that. I want to bring in Dr. Asiedu Bekwin before we come to Dr. Yankson. Dr. Asiedu Bekwin, thanks again for your time with us. I think at this point, the question is revolving around what is happening at our airports. That is what is being challenged. Okay. And so I want us to consider that and see whether indeed we as a country are doing everything to ensure that what we do at our airports has integrity, we are doing quality control, and that we can all trust what we are told when we are tested at the airports. Now, I want to read a small part of the Ghana Health Service statement that was issued on the 31st of July, just a few days ago, about the viral allegations against COVID-19 testing in Ghana. I want to quickly read from the second paragraph, which is headed, Outcome of Testing at the KIA 1st September 2020 to 31st July 2021. It says, and I quote, since the KIA was reopened to international travel on 1st September 2020, a total of 398,803 passengers have so far been tested for COVID-19 upon arrival at the KIA as of 31st July 2021. Of these 398,000, 2,386 have tested positive for COVID-19, representing 0.6% of the total antigen tests conducted at the KIA for arriving passengers. Out of those who have tested positive, 1,494, that's 63%, have been males, and 892, 37% females. Again, 987, that's 41%, have been Ghanaians, and 1,399, 59%, non-Ghanaians. Ghana Health Service has full confidence in the FDA-approved testing systems at the airport. Additionally, there is no basis for the above 0.6% to be seen as false positives. Dr. Asiedu Bekwin, is it the position of the Ghana Health Service that there are no false positives from the antigen tests being done at the airport?
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to other panelists and viewers. Let me state that the last statement, you see, there was an allegation that the results were fake. So apparently that statement was that there was no need to falsify the results. I mean, that is what we really were saying. I mean, that is what was the import. I think that the wording was a bit different. But then what we are trying to say is that if you have gotten 400,000 tests done and just 0.6% are positive, why do you need to falsify it? I mean, that was the import. So it was, I think it's the couching of the wording that was not in the right test. We're only talking about false positives, but clearly every test in the world has false positives. And let me say clearly that as a service, you see, we've moved on over the past months and years. And for a country to say that you are free from importation, there are two things you need to do. One, you close your borders, absolute. Or you do mandatory quarantine of all visitors, irrespective of your test result. So that's it. In that case, nobody enters the country, or everybody that enters the country, you put them under 14-day quarantine. And that's happening in Australia, that's happening in South Korea. But we need to see that our economy has to expand, and we also need to look at the abilities on the ground. So we have a modified system. And let me say, Ghana is one of the first countries that introduced the antigen testing at the airport. We have gone through some of these phases in our response. We used to do mandatory quarantine, which was self-sponsored by the government. We wanted to do 14-day quarantine, which was paid by the passenger.
Yeah.
And then we decided that no, let's go another way. And that's why we introduced this airport testing. So before we introduce this testing at the airport, FDA, let me say that Ghana FDA is one of the top in the world, not just in Africa. So they actually approved and registered for use the instruments being used at the airport. And this is a very highly sensitive kit which is being used. So clearly, if you have a very highly sensitive kit being used at the airport, you actually have a few false positives. So that is not the issue. The issue is that the processes going on at the airport are authentic, they are genuine, and they are reliable. And that is how come Ghana has been able to contain the minimal importation into the country. So one thing we also want to say is that you see, there's a whole chain of events going on at the airport. And there are several players all involved in the process. So there's one which is like the testing, and then you also have to look at it at the airport, and then positive cases are triaged. The triaging done, you triage and you ask yourself a few questions. Does the person have symptoms? Does the person have underlying conditions? Does the person have a home environment that is conducive to manage? So along the second wave, we were actually putting a lot of Ghanaians under self-isolation. And I want to put in the context that the fight against COVID is collective. So we were putting Ghanaians under self-isolation. And then the people who were putting under self-isolation were the people going to the pubs, parties, and reinfecting friends, relatives, and colleagues. So we modified our protocol. We said, no, we are no more going to do self-isolation. We're going to do mandatory isolation. So we said every person who is positive at the airport, we do 7-day mandatory isolation. And they were doing it at designated health facilities. So there were two forms. It's either it's government-sponsored, that's usually Ghanaian, or you go to a hotel, and the hotels are graduated based on your ability to pay. So you have a bit of low, middle, and high class. Ghana Health Service has no interest in what is paid for. The individual makes a decision where you want to go. So there are high-end people who go to top four-class hotels, and they are actually self-isolated. So if you're a Ghanaian, you have what we call you have the National Isolation Center, which is situated in Pantan. That is not the mental facility. It's the National Isolation Facility situated in Pantan. So you go there, and then we do a 3rd-day antigen test. Let me say that we do two kinds of tests. The third day we do an antigen test to try and see your status after your initial test done. Then we do a PCR test. This PCR test, it is not to validate the antigen test. It is for the genomic sequencing. So the idea is that if you are positive, you want to find out the kind of variant you are carrying. And that has been the process that we are running. And let me say that this process has been it has been useful for us, despite a few challenges that have occurred. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think that's some great clarity there. So the process is you do one test at the airport. If you test positive, antigen test, sorry, at the airport. If you test positive, you'll be taken into quarantine. If you're Ghanaian, you're going to the facility in Pantan. If you're non-Ghanaian, you're going to a hotel. 3 days later, that's 72 hours later, you will do another antigen test. That antigen test is to check whether your status has changed. You will also do a PCR test, but that PCR test is for genomic sequencing. Have I clarified? Have I got that right?
Yes, that is the sequence.
Very well, very well. So at the airport, when you do the test and you are told the result, if for some reason you have a reason to doubt, is there a mechanism, bearing in mind that we all accept that every test has false positives, and 3 days of your life, is valuable, it's expensive. So if you wish to validate, if you have a reason to doubt the results, is there a process to challenge it and be retested in a way that will confirm either way the outcome?
Yeah, so let me say that protocols or guidelines are not static. I mean, they are meant to be reviewed. And when you are managing a pandemic, it's kind of a trade-off. So your main focus is to seek the safety of the population. So somehow, not the best, but we have to side with the population against that individual. But I think that based on whatever is going on, I think that as a country, we need to look at it. We have moved on based on our guidelines over the period. For now, as we speak, we do not have that space that you contest the results at the airport. But it's not static situation that we may not need to amend it. What we are saying is that we were looking at a very sensitive instrument, which is the antigen test. So because it's so extra sensitive, it's about 99.9, it's possible we have a few false positives. So let me say that even those who are making the comments, there are instances that people have somehow doubted the results, but with time, they've come to accept that that could be true. You see, for science, there's not like absolute. I mean, that is science.
Yeah. So,
and there are individuals who have different idiosyncrasies and different genetic makeup. So you cannot be very, that's why we give ranges. So if you look at the spectrum, persons coming in from outside to the country. So there's a starting point, which is that do a test. And then the test is that you do an PCR test. And we are saying that be negative. There are instances that people have come to Ghana with a positive PCR test and the airlines have been fined. If you do that, we fine you $3,500. So the idea is that the airlines should be watchful to be sure that people who are entering your plane are antigen negative.
Right.
You see, when somebody is coming, let's assume somebody could be at the early stage of a positive status, but then to be negative. And he comes to Ghana, and then antigen is positive. That guy can, after 2-3 days, move from antigen positive to antigen negative. It's possible. I mean, let me be also clear. When you have people who have been vaccinated, and whereby they have high utilizing antibodies, they have a high probability of clearing their virus. So there's nothing like a no-no in science. And I think that we need to be realistic with the issues going on. We are not saying
that's
that
interesting.
Listen, let me say, we are not saying that they could not be false positives. What we are saying is that we need to be realistic and then move on with it.
Okay.
And for us as a country, we cannot say that system there is fake. The system has been able to contain over almost 390,000 Ghanaians who have entered the country with their viruses if you didn't have a system. So we may have a few challenges with the kits, but it has served Ghana a good purpose. There's no need to falsify the results. What is the purpose? I mean, what do you want to achieve as a country for Ghana? I don't think that's the essence. Yeah. So if there are few challenges, we will look at it and address it.
Okay, so for me, I think, and for everyone who's listening, our interest is in being able to have faith in the system. No, not about accusing anybody or falsifying, but to be able to hear how it works and convince ourselves that this is the best system and it is reliable. Okay, so Dr. Sedubek, you've brought up an interesting issue about how those who have been vaccinated, how the virus interacts in their system. So what you're saying is that because of what the vaccine does to your antibodies, it is very possible for you to be negative on day one, and then you get the infection. After you've got your PCR test results in your country of origin, you suddenly get infected. So you travel to Ghana within 72 hours, you are tested at Kotoka, and the antigen test picks up that you are positive because you've been infected since you did your PCR test in your country of origin. So now you're positive at Kotoka. Then you are taken into quarantine, and 72 hours later, you are tested again, another antigen test. And this time, it's negative because between the time you tested positive at Kotoka and the 72 hours later, when you are being tested again, your vaccination could cause you to get rid of the viral load within 72 hours to test negative. You're saying that that is a possibility confirmed by science.
What I'm saying is that, you see, so let's look at the situation. So now we are not looking at 72 hours. We're looking at 72 plus another 72. What I said is that, you see, what you are entering the country with a negative PCR test, which must not be more than 72 hours. So now you are entering, you see, you could be there at the early stage of a positive result, but you'll be negative. So you are coming to the country with a 3-day infection. So you get positive at the airport. Then you also have another 3 days. So now you're looking about 5 to 6 days of somebody who has been positive, and that's what I'm saying. When you have a high viral neutralizing antibodies, it could be cleared. I mean, so that's why there's a range. There are just documented evidence that some viral clearances can occur with, like, as early as 3 days. So I mean, what I want to say is that there's no rigid science about when things can clear. That's why they give a range. But we are also not disputing that they could be false positives. And I think that is an issue for us as a country to see that, fine, if they are false positives and we think that the magnitude is high, what do you go about it? And those are the things that we as a country will decide on. And clearly, I want to state that there's no need to falsify the results. Because we know the effects of COVID in the country. We have no interest in the kind of hotels that are running. What we are saying is that, let me also state, before you are accepted as a hotel, there are processes you go through. So first they apply. Let me also add, until recently, almost all the hotels in Accra were COVID hotels because the hotel business was collapsed. So they will all come to us, apply, and then we'll go there to verify whether you are fit for purpose. When we eased up and they started enjoying their businesses, they said, no, they are no more interested in to be COVID hotels. So now only few of these hotels are actually interested to be COVID hotels. And so we, as a service, what we do is that we go and verify whether your hotel is suitable to be used for isolation. We also make sure we train your staff. The idea is that we don't want cross-contamination in the hotel. So that's what we do. So there's no interest for us as a service. Our interest is public health.
Right. Okay. So let's come back to the issue of the validity of these tests. It's not about falsifying results, but whether the tests themselves are valid enough for us to all trust in them. I want to bring in Dr. Justice Youngson of the Ghana Medical Association. Dr. Youngson, thanks for your patience. And just as I did with Dr. Asiedu Bekwin, if you don't mind, I would like to quote from the communique that your association issued. And again, we're going to the second paragraph. It's headed, "The COVID-19 Pandemic Third Wave and Our National Response." And I quote, "In the last couple of weeks, the COVID-19 case count has increased sharply, resulting in a third wave of the pandemic in the country, driven largely by the Delta and Alpha variants. This increasing case count can directly be attributed to 1. The total disregard for and the lack of enforcement of all relevant COVID-19 preventive protocols throughout the country, and 2. Importation of cases from other countries via travelers arriving at our points of entry." Dr. Youngson, let's focus on the 2 for a moment. If indeed these provisions are as robust as we are told they are, Dr. Franklin Asiedu Bekwin saying that they are effective in his narrative, supporting the effectiveness of the testing at the airport and suggesting that if anything could be wrong, it's probably the test that was done outside, but not the ones that are done in Ghana. If that is true, how can the importation be driving our numbers as the Ghana Medical Association believes they are?
Okay, Koyo, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity. You know, when you look at our national dashboard, the numbers that are reported actually include cases that are picked up at, let's say, Kotoka International Airport. And if you look at the Ghana Health Service state release, it tells you the number of tests that is being done, the number of positives and all that. And those people who get tested and end up being positive, as far as the data is concerned, they are part of our numbers because the test results that give a positive return actually took place on our shores as a country. So the importation of the cases basically means that hitherto the person was not in this country. At the time the person got into this country, by way of statistics, the person tested positive, and that had to be added to our case count. Ultimately, the person may end up, say, in a treatment center, an isolation unit, or in the past, as we used to do, home isolation and possibly home care. So once you become positive, you become part of our figures. And that is one key thing. Then the other side of it is what Dr. Asiedu Bekwin said earlier, that there was a point in time that we, as a country, per the policy that we were running, gave people the opportunity to self-isolate at home. Unfortunately, some of these persons will not stay at home. they end up at all sorts of places, including the nightclubs and what have you, and then begin to spread the disease in our community. So that is the second leg of what imported cases could do. But of course, like Dr. Asedubekwe also said, and I think Dr. Mwisi also said, the truth is that in medical science, when it comes to laboratory testing, the issue of false positives and false negatives will always exist. Every test whatsoever will answer why you may get a false negative or a false positive. Each of them will have its own interpretation. Today we are talking a lot more about false positive. But assuming there's a false negative, what it means is that that person would have sieved through the net, ends up in the community. The reasons for the false negative can also be looked at. And that person, whilst in the community, maybe begins to develop symptoms or whatever, or they begin to also spread the disease in the community. Ultimately, it will boil down to what we call the community spread.
Yeah.
And that will bring in that exponential factor that will increase the numbers rapidly. So this is how the importation of cases actually works in terms of the statistics and how it can also impact on numbers depending on what happens to those imported cases, whether they have the ability to infect others either by way of their own careless behavior or cracks that may have occurred in the system for which they took advantage of.
Dr. Youngson, this is so rude of me because I definitely have a number more of other questions I wanted to put to you, but I've just been signaled by my production that we've run out of time. We are going to have to pick this up again tomorrow. Because there's a lot more that I think we want to learn from the Ghana Medical Association as well as the Ghana Health Service, and indeed we want our experts to educate us even more. So we are going to take this up again tomorrow and deal with all the outstanding issues. I want to thank you all for your time with us this morning. We can't thank you enough. Dr. Franklin Asiedu-Bekwin is with the Ghana Health Service. Dr. Justice Youngson is the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. And Dr. John Amwesi is with KNUST and KCCR. Okay, when you smell gas, please open doors and windows to get rid of it. Check and see if the gas has been left on. If not, there's probably a gas leak, so turn off the regulator and call technicians to service your stove. If it is safe to do so, try and locate the source of the leak by applying a solution of soapy water to the base of your cylinder valve or along the flexible hose. If bubbles appear and become bigger or increase in number, then you have a leak. Knowing where the leak is will help you prevent accidents. This public service announcement is brought to you by the National Petroleum Authority. Please stay safe. Now, Kingdom Books and Stationery has done something amazing. They've introduced an online store for your shopping convenience. It's at kingdomstoreonline.com. So go check it out so that you don't have to physically go to any branch. It's hassle-free. They will deliver to your home or office. And, of course, they'll give you free delivery within Accra and Tema. And they accept payments via Momo. Terms and conditions do apply. At Kingdom, quality and affordability is their hallmark. If you're watching TV on a flat screen HD TV, did you know that you could get it in clearer and brighter, high definition quality, 5 times better than standard definition? Get yourself the new HD Plus decoder today from the nearest authorized dealer or any Electroland showroom across the country and enjoy the feely experience on your HD TV like never before. Go to hd-plus.com.gh or call 0242 439 872 for more details. Thanks for all of your text messages. They are brought to you by the Glycocritical Illness Plan, GSIP. It's in your best interest to survive. Now, another European football season showdown is here again on Joy FM, brought to you by Bet of Africa. The Champions League winners, Chelsea, face off with the Europa League winners, Villarreal, in the season-opening UEFA Super Cup. Join the Joy Sports team in collaboration with Bet of Africa, on the 11th of August 2021 for this titanic encounter. It's Chelsea, it's Villarreal. It's the UEFA Super Cup on Joy, powered by Bet of Africa. Log on to betofafrica.com.gh, register now, and get a registration bonus of 20 Ghana cedis. No conditions. You also get a 100% deposit bonus on your first deposit, up to a maximum of 1,000 Ghana cedis. Experience the best odds and fastest payouts on Bet of Africa. So please wash your hands frequently and carefully with soap and water. Rewash them several times a day, especially after touching anything, including your phone or laptop. Use hand sanitizer when you can't wash your hands properly. Wash fresh groceries. Clean and disinfect surfaces like countertops, door handles, furniture, toys, laptops, and mobile phones with alcohol-based disinfectants. My dear friends, thank you so much for joining us on the Super Morning Show. We're back tomorrow with more. Stay tuned.
The boys are back, oh! The boys are back! Imagine inviting great footballers like Ronaldo, Messi, and Mbappe into your home. Imagine feeling the big man temperament of football's fiercest rivals in your living room. Imagine enjoying the home ground advantage of witnessing the best of Serie A, La Liga, Premier League, UEFA Europa, and many more leagues all in English. Or stop imagining. Just get a GoTV decoder now at 89 Ghana cedis and upgrade to GoTV Max to turn your home into the home ground of great football. To purchase a new decoder, SMS GoTV to short code 1731. GoTV. Love it.
Drama from day one.
Olympics is here, where people cheer for the champions. And Samsung has got something great. Samsung Olympics promotion, only for the champions. Grab your Samsung LED TV starting at 1,199 Ghana cedis. Samsung UHD 4K Smart TV 4,499 Ghana cedis. Refrigerators start at 1,599. Samsung Duracold top mounted freezer 2,199. Split AC starting at 1,899 Ghana cedis. Washing machine 1,699. Microwaves will start at 699 Ghana cedis. This and many more at fantastic prices. Samsung Olympics promotion, only for the champions.
$10.
Joy headline news at 10. I am Manuel Cranting. Coming up, the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens has revealed the deadly COVID-19 Delta strain has finally taken over infections in Ghana. Director for the center, Professor Gordon Awandari, in a Twitter post last night, displayed data from WACBIP's latest study, which revealed the Delta strain constituted about 90% of community spread in the country. Joy News editor Araba Kumsin gives details of Mr. Awandari's tweet.
Professor Awandari says, our data now suggest the inevitable has occurred. The Delta variant has taken over local transmission in Ghana. Remarkably, it appears the Alpha variant was already being replaced by another infectious strain, only identified as B.1.1.318. before Delta arrived. In the latest update for events on the 29th of July, there were 664 new cases in one day, extending our active cases to 72, short of the dreaded 6,000 mark. One more person has also died, bringing the death toll to 837.
Joy News editor Araba Kumsin there. Away from that story now, economist Dr. Professor Godfred Bokpin is urging government to take radical steps in dealing with Ghana's rising debt stock, failing which the nation is likely to return to the International Monetary Fund for support. Since 1966, successive governments have failed to sustain debt, and the IMF's predicting Ghana would go to the monetary institution for the 17th time if the country's debt situation worsens. Professor Bokpin believes tackling corruption and opting for prudent revenue measures would help reverse the situation.
So we have not been able to walk our talk and talk our walk. We have to take some drastic measures. We have to tackle corruption in the same manner it appears. We have to make sure that all the revenue measures we put in place, we have the political will, and we put the right people in place to ensure that it is implemented in a manner consistent with assumptions underlining the policy formulation.
Professor Godfred Bokpin is an economist and a finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. In more news this morning, Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh has laid on the floor of Parliament a request to allow the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation to purchase 37% stake in Aka Energy's oil block and 70% stake in AGM Petroleum's oil block. Now, an additional request has been placed before Parliament to allow the establishment of a joint exploration company among GNPC, Exploco, Aka and AGM. Speaker of Parliament Albert Bagben has referred the request to the Joint Energy and Finance Committees, but former Prime Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor has some concerns about these requests.
In establishing a solid PRMA, that will be difficult for governments to play around with. The law made room for the stabilization fund that has been drawn down by government last year as per the conditions set out in the law. But the heritage fund is not for us, it's for the next generation. So any attempt to amend the PRMA will create conditions for government to attach the heritage fund. So and that is.
You had the former Energy Minister Dr. Kwabena Donkor. Now, the lawyer at the center of the alleged $5 billion bribe involving the Chief Justice has sued the General Legal Counsel. Kwesi Afrifa is asking the High Court to set aside the proceedings of the GLC's disciplinary committee meeting held in July against him. Now, he also contends the said meeting was wrongful, illegal, and contrary to the rules of natural justice. The disciplinary committee had earlier decided to slap the legal practitioner Kwesi Afrifa with 9 charges for misconduct. There's of course more on this story on myjoyonline.com. And before we go, dozens of bodies have washed up on a river that marks the border between Ethiopia and Sudan. Residents of the Sudanese side have reported. Now, some of the bodies had gunshot wounds and others had their hands bound. Witnesses told news agencies a health worker who fled to Sudan to escape the fighting told the Reuters news agency that he had buried 10 bodies over the past week. He said another 28 bodies had been recovered, including 7 on Monday. The Ethiopian government has not officially commented on the story. And that's it for the headline news at 10 here on Joy997 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Manuel Cronting. Up next on your radio is Doreen Ando with the Cosmopolitan Mix to stay.
Keep this frequency clear. 99.7.
There are vacations and there are vacations. Oh yes, the people you go on a vacation with make all the difference. This September, join our producer extraordinaire, Philip Nye, on this amazing vacation to 2 of the world's best holiday destinations for the price of 1. Yes, yes, yes! Buy 1 and get 1 free. That's what happens when you travel with the best people, facilitated by the best travel and tour company, Adansi Travels. As part of Adansi Travels' 8th anniversary, we are inviting you to join this all-new package to Maldives and Dubai on a single trip from 1st to 8th of September. Join Philip Nye to go see the beautiful islands of Maldives and experience the crystalline waters with those beautiful shades of blue and sparkling white sand before jetting into Dubai to behold their modern architecture, lively night scenes, and a good shopping spree. This combo for the price of 1 is the perfect holiday you deserve. With only $2,750 per person and $5,450 per couple, you get to enjoy these 2 destinations with flight, hotel, visas, and meals. Call Adansi Travels now on 055-631-0404 or visit www.adansitravels.com for all enquiries and reservations. Adansi Travels. Feel life's beauty.
Guy, wasn't live sports action in 5 times clearer and brighter picture quality as if you're also at the stadium too, Anna? And now open over 100 free to air channels. Parental access control, Anna. And now 7-day electronic programming guide. And now per channel selection and presentation pop-up. And now 3 months free subscription. All this for just 89.99 Ghana cedis.
Hurry now. Purchase an HD Plus decoder today for just 89.99 Ghana cedis and enjoy 3 months free subscription. Get a front row seat to all the excitement and live sports action in the HD Plus Ebosu Fili Fili promo. Visit the nearest multi-TV dealer or Electroland outlets nationwide to purchase your HD Plus decoder today. Promo lasts from 7th June to 9th August 2021. Offer valid while stocks last.
Postponed a year because of the coronavirus pandemic. The world's best athletes will once again compete, and the world's best home of electronics and appliances, Electroland, have everything for families and everyone.
Electroland Olympics promotion. Okay, just follow me. You can grab anything from Samsung, Nasco, Toshiba, and media for your family and loved ones. What a great discount! Nasco LED flat TV starts at 999 Ghana cedis. Samsung LED TV, 1,499 cedis. Refresh your family with a Samsung split AC. Everyone will love it at home if you change that old refrigerator. Buy your washing machine, microwave, water dispenser at the best discount rate. We call it Electroland Olympics promotion.
When I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth with Kale Charcoal toothpaste. This gives me confidence all day.
Anytime you meet Amma, don't be surprised I smile showing my beautiful white teeth because I don't have cavity thanks to Kale Charcoal toothpaste for its natural charcoal properties. In fact, we are like twins. I can't go without my Kale Charcoal toothpaste.
That be why I dey use Kale Charcoal toothpaste morning and night when I dey go bed safe. It dey make my teeth white when it dey comot every scent from my mouth inside. My confidence level they go up, so I dey show my 32 teeth all.
Introducing the Kale Charcoal toothpaste, formulated with activated bamboo charcoal powder, ensures whiter teeth and removes bad breath. The strong natural property of the activated bamboo charcoal removes bacteria, absorbs surface stains on our teeth caused by coffee, wines, and tobacco. Welcome, Kale Charcoal toothpaste. Kale Charcoal toothpaste, Sankofa Yenchi.
Kale, happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved.